Welcome back to Echo Tales, your destination for stories that echo long after they're told. Today, we continue with episode 2 of Legacy and Shadows. The life Ethan Parker has built begins to crack under the weight of a past that refuses to stay hidden. Settle in and let's begin. Ethan Parker lay awake in the dark, staring at the ceiling. The room was quiet, save for the soft rhythm of Lily's breathing beside him. But inside Ethan's mind, it was chaos. The phone call from earlier replayed endlessly. Your family needs you. It's time to come home, Mr. Parker. For years, he had convinced himself that his old life was behind him, that the choice to leave it all behind, the wealth, the power, the expectations, had freed him. But now, the past was clawing its way back, refusing to stay buried. He turned his head to look at Lily. She was peaceful, her face relaxed, unaware of the storm brewing just beyond the walls of their modest apartment. Ethan clenched his jaw. He had made his choice to protect her from that world, to keep her safe. But how much longer could he keep this secret? How much longer could he shield her from the truth? The next morning, Ethan moved through his routine, his mind clouded with worry. He kissed Lily goodbye, her cheerful smile and casual wave tugging at his heart. She deserved better than this uncertainty, better than the weight of his lies. He stepped outside into the crisp morning air, hoping the coolness would clear his head. That's when he saw it. A sleek black car was parked across the street. Its engine purred softly, the sound almost imperceptible in the quiet of the neighborhood. The windows were tinted, offering no view of who or what was inside. But Ethan didn't need to see. He knew. The car wasn't a coincidence. It was a message. Ethan froze for a moment, his heart pounding in his chest. He glanced back toward the window of their apartment. Lily stood there, coffee mug in hand, smiling as she waved again. For her sake, he forced a smile in return and resumed walking toward his own car. His steps were measured, his movements calm, but every nerve in his body was on high alert. He could feel their eyes on him. They wanted him to know they were watching. They wanted him to know they could reach him, no matter where he hid. The drive to work was a blur. Ethan's hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles pale. He tried to focus on the familiar route, but his thoughts raced. The call had been one thing, but this was different. They were escalating. They weren't just asking him to return, they were demanding it. And they wouldn't stop until they got what they wanted. At work, the routine hum of the office seemed almost surreal. Co-workers greeted him with casual nods, their chatter filled with ordinary complaints about deadlines and meetings. But Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Every sound, every unfamiliar face that passed his desk sent a jolt of anxiety through him. By lunchtime, the tension was unbearable. He left the office, telling his colleagues he needed to grab a coffee. But it wasn't coffee he needed, it was space. Clarity. He walked aimlessly, his feet carrying him to a quiet park a few blocks away. The air was cool, the soft chatter of children playing in the distance a sharp contrast to the turmoil in his mind. Ethan leaned against a tree, closing his eyes and taking a deep breath. He had worked so hard to leave that life behind, to build something real, something simple. And yet, here he was, dragged back into a world he wanted nothing to do with. His chest tightened as frustration bubbled beneath the surface. Why now? Why couldn't they leave him alone? A voice broke through his thoughts. Calm. Steady. Too close. Beautiful day, isn't it? Ethan's eyes snapped open. A man stood a few feet away, dressed in a sharp, dark suit. He was smiling, but it was the kind of smile that didn't reach his eyes. There was something calculating about him, something that made Ethan's instincts scream danger. Ethan straightened, his pulse quickening. "It is," he replied carefully, his voice measured. The man took a step closer, his movements deliberate. "You don't recognize me, do you?" he said, chuckling softly. "That's all right. But I know who you are, Ethan Parker." The sound of his name sent a chill down Ethan's spine. He didn't respond, his body tensing. The man's smile widened slightly, as though amused by Ethan's silence. "I have a message for you," the man said, his tone still calm. "Your family has been very patient. But patience, as I'm sure you know, has limits. It's time to come home." Ethan clenched his fist, his jaw tightening. The words were almost identical to those he'd heard on the phone, but hearing them in person delivered by this stranger made them feel all the more real. "I'm not going back," Ethan said, his voice low but firm. The man tilted his head, studying him. "You may not have a choice," he said simply. "They'll give you time to think it over, but make no mistake, this isn't a request. It's a summons." Without waiting for a reply, the man turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd of parkgoers. Ethan stood frozen, his mind racing. The calm menace in the man's voice was worse than any direct threat. It was a reminder of how far his family's reach extended and just how little control he truly had. When Ethan returned home that evening, the black car was gone, but the weight of its presence lingered. The peaceful life he had worked so hard to build with Lily was slipping through his fingers. And the worst part, you didn't know how to stop it. You've been listening to Legacy in Shadows on Echo Tiles. Today, Ethan learned the Watchers are closer than ever, and his family isn't taking no for an answer. What will their next move be? And how long can Ethan keep his secret safe? Join us in the next episode to uncover the answers. Don't forget to follow Echo Tiles for more stories that linger in your mind. Until next time, let the echoes of this tale stay with you.